There's something about old cars that feels like stepping into a time machine. The smell of leather, the sound of the engine, even the little quirks that made each drive an adventure. Today, most cars feel the same: quiet, efficient, and loaded with screens. But once upon a time, automobiles had character. They weren't just machines. They were companions on the road, filled with features that told stories. Today, we're looking at 10 vintage car features that modern drivers will never know. 1. Crank starters. Back in the early 1900s, starting your car wasn't as simple as turning a key. You had to step outside, bend down, and turn a heavy metal crank to bring the engine to life. It was noisy, tough, and sometimes downright dangerous. Kickbacks could break your arm if you weren't careful. Yet there was something heroic about it, like taming a wild beast before taking it for a ride. This feature disappeared once electric starters became popular in the 1920s, making cars safer and easier for everyone. Still, old photos of men in flat caps winding those cranks remind us of a time when driving felt like an adventure from the very first moment. 2. Running boards. If you've ever seen a classic gangster film, you've noticed running boards. These flat metal steps ran along the sides of cars, letting passengers climb in with ease. They weren't just practical, they were stylish too. Kids loved riding them, movie stars posed on them, and in the 1920s and 30s they became a cultural symbol. By the 1950s, sleeker car designs pushed running boards aside. But whenever you see an old Ford Model A or a Packard, those running boards whisper of a world where cars were not just transport but fashion. 3. Suicide doors. The name itself makes you pause. Suicide doors opened backwards with the hinge at the rear instead of the front. This design was elegant, making entry and exit graceful, like stepping into a ballroom. Luxury brands like Lincoln and Rolls-Royce embraced them, giving cars an aura of sophistication. The problem, though, was safety. If the door swung open while driving, the wind could rip it wide open. By the 1960s, regulations and safety fears shut them down. Today, they survive only on a few high-end models, but in the past, they gave every ride a touch of drama. 4. Hand crank windows. Before the age of silent electric switches, rolling down your window meant muscle power. A little handle would spin in circles, and the glass would slowly glide down. For children in the back seat, this was a toy. For drivers, it was just part of the rhythm of driving. Crank windows began fading in the 1980s as power windows became standard. Now, the clunky sound of gears turning is a memory. But if you ever rode in a car with crank windows, you remember the satisfying click with each turn. 5. Hood ornaments. Once upon a time, cars wore jewelry. A shining hood ornament wasn't just decoration, it was a statement of pride. The spirit of ecstasy on a Rolls-Royce, the leaping Jaguar, the Cadillac crest, all stood proudly on the hood. Drivers polished them like trophies, and they made cars feel alive, like steeds with spirit. But theft, safety concerns, and changing tastes slowly pushed them out of style by the 1980s. Today, they're rare, but each one carries a piece of history, gleaming like a badge of honor from another era. 6. Push-button transmissions. In the 1950s and 60s, some cars had transmissions controlled not by a gear lever, but by shiny push buttons on the dashboard. It felt futuristic, like piloting a spaceship. Chrysler, Plymouth, and even Packard experimented with this quirky system. Drivers loved the novelty, but reliability issues and rising costs led to their downfall. By the late 1960s, the push-button transmission was gone. Still, there was a time when every drive felt like pressing go on a rocket ship. 7. Wing windows. Long before air conditioning was common, cars had small triangular wing windows up front. You could tilt them just right to let in a breeze without blasting your face with wind. Smokers loved them too. They made the perfect little vent. The soft whistle of air through a wing window is something modern cars can't replicate. They vanished by the 1980s as sleeker designs and air conditioning became the norm. But on a hot summer day, those little wings felt like magic. 8. Bench seats. Imagine sliding across one big seat in the front, no dividers, no buckets, just a wide, comfortable bench. Couples loved them because they could sit close on long drives. families squeezed in without worry, and every American sedan of the 1950s and 60s carried them with pride. But safety regulations, seat belts, and changing tastes brought bucket seats instead. Today, only pickup trucks keep the tradition alive. Yet the bench seat remains a symbol of togetherness, back when cars felt like living rooms on wheels. 9. Ashtrays and cigarette lighters. There was a time when nearly every car expected its driver to light up. Ashtrays in every door, shiny lighters built into the dashboard. It was part of the culture. The smell of smoke, the glowing tip of a cigarette on a night drive, it all felt normal then. But as smoking declined and health warnings rose, these features quietly disappeared by the 1990s. Now, most people wouldn't dream of smoking in a car, but the old lighters and ashtrays remind us of an era when habits and highways were closely tied. 10. Fender-mounted mirrors. Before mirrors were fixed to doors, many cars had them mounted right on the fenders. You'd lean forward, squinting across the hood to catch a glimpse of traffic behind you. It wasn't always practical, but it looked sharp. Japanese cars in the 1960s kept the tradition longer than most. Eventually, safety and convenience shifted mirrors to doors, closer to the driver's eyes. But those fender mirrors added charm, making cars look like they had little antennae peeking out into the world. Cars today may be faster, safer, and smarter, but they don't always carry the same soul. The crank starters, the bench seats, the little wing windows, they were more than features. They were pieces of a story, stitched into the golden age of driving. Which one of these features do you miss the most or wish you could try? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into the past. This has been American Rewind. Thanks for riding along.